at a certain point you begin to realize, because earlier we are thinking, I don't like this action, I don't like when this thing happened, and so on, so on, so. But the one it's happening to, we don't put the attention on that one. We just want the happening to stop. But the happening is related to the one it happens to. So the one it happens to also itself is a happening. But we think it is a fact that something happened to this one. So it is a sign of maturity that we come to see that the one that things keep happening to should be questioned. And then what happens is that if you catch that one is the cause of all the happenings that's happening to it, and that it itself is a happening, then it releases you from the limitation of that identity, and you're in a greater field of consciousness. Make sense like this?
Yes.
This is the last one we question. Actually, if we're paid attention to ourselves, you don't have to fix anybody. You just keep seeing that actually our actions and reactions, while we have identity, is very linked to our identity. Without identity, actions and reactions are the universes. With identity, actions and reactions belong to the person. So it therefore is really important that when your recognition, when your understanding comes to see that it's not about changing the world to suit your present state of identification, but when you are beyond identity altogether, then all things are flowing as a universal harmony. But it's the last thing we looked at, because when we are identified with personhood, there's some insecurity and a defense mechanism to protect the sense of vulnerability which comes with identity. Without identity, there's no vulnerability. Everything comes back to identity. Identity creates some contraction in the universal consciousness, which then condenses down into something personal. It's like that. These are really it may take even a time to really understand and assimilate what that means. Then it will take more time to stabilize in that understanding and to become that understanding, so to speak. First, the mind is seemingly trying to take on that understanding. At some point, when it comes clear for us that awareness does not need any help to work out personal complexities, because at present we may feel that there's greater strength and a greater sense of reality or belief in the state of personhood than in the source from which it comes. So therefore, the source, which is unchanging, feels like it's a goal to be reached. But because it's infinite, there is no goal to be reached. It is, it is somehow containing all the shapes which come in and out of focus in itself. It causes them. We are a little bit like fishes dying of thirst in the ocean. Or the fish is being told, you need to go, really, really have to go into the heart of the ocean to find real water. How do I get there? Swim. In what must I swim? Water. When put like that, when put away from ourselves, it seems easy and even funny to look. But when applied to ourselves, because of the strength of personal identity, it just feels like, wow, that's just so difficult to get it, Because of the belief in the person personal identity. So what is to be done? Just to keep sitting with it, and each time it come up, because it does come, you don't have to go search for some to inquire in. It keeps coming up. The I sense is there. Any thought activity intuitively and spontaneously contain a sense of I, who is the thinker of the thought, appearing to be the thinker of the thought, or the doer of the action. The I can arise silently. It is present. Then to be aware of this I quality. Is it personal or impersonal? It has to be personal because it is watched from someplace impersonal. Little things like that, just a little bit eye watching, and then it makes it more graspable. Otherwise, if it goes through the mind, it turns it into a huge puzzle. And it's like, but like the lady said, but I can't do it. I can't do it, you see. Why is that feel so strong? Because the I that she's saying cannot do it is strongly believed in. And I said, the I, but that I doesn't exist. And so it creates some shock inside, like, whoa. So then what happened is that she couldn't find the I who can't do it. And that's why I started laughing, you see. I can't think, that's gone. Like this was happening, you see. Because everything is hinging on the strength and the belief in this I quality, who is unable to do something. That's why it doesn't exist. It only exists as a thought, and as a thought believed in. Even the belief is a very powerful, one of our very powerful tools, because whatever you believe, you create. And then always something is happening to us, something is happening to us. And at the same time, I can see how plausible that is, how natural, because I'm not unfamiliar with that way of perceiving, because we all grew up in the sense of the pseudo subject, that I, the person, am the subject of my experience. And so it's very normal, even considered to be natural, but it is not natural. It's just normal behavior for consciousness. What compels consciousness to identify personally? Consciousness causes itself. The higher consciousness creates the game out of manifesting in as diversity, and to strengthen the play of that, to intensify the play of diversity. For a while, many years ago, I have been saying, it is as though consciousness creates the sense of a problem in order to have the experience of transcending the problem it creates. That it seems that life is a little bit like that. It's like a play of transcending, of waking oneself up out of one's own dream. But for most people in the world, it sounds very abstract thing, because we take who we think ourselves are, who we think our family are, who we think the world is, to be what it is. And each one has a different viewpoint. Even someone's heaven will not be another person's heaven. Maybe their hell for them. So at the level of personal projected reality, we cannot meet. It's a matrix of a tapestry of such diverse projections and so on. Even within the one unit of consciousness is constantly diversifying its projections. Then if you multiply that by 8 billion times, how it can be one harmony? Only God is the harmony that appears to human being as confusion, is the harmony that is never touched. And so great is the harmony that even seeming disharmony is part of the great harmony. So who can work it out? Nobody has to work it out. Once you solve the mystery of personal identity, your own consciousness is integrated into the totality consciousness. And so it's more of a harmony than a doing. The harmony is always here. The mind will play the role of disharmony, trying to become harmony. The ultimate delusion of the yogic experience of two things becoming one. It's only play. It's only ever been one, like that. I don't always like to speak like this because it's not easy to catch it, Only as you begin to get familiar with the language of seeing, then you can then just hold on to this thread and it will take you all the way through. But for most people, you have to start in a much simpler way. And they can also go much faster than somebody who's been on this path for a while. I spoke with someone very recent, just a few days ago, who has never done any satsang, don't know any spiritual words, something, very intelligent, what I would say more emotionally heart-centered person. And it was a very big joy because it's just talking about regular human relationship situations and crisis where this person had come into a human situation which, when he presented it, there is not really any easy answer out of it. And this can be multiplied many times. Sometimes from a human perspective, we are in such a predicament, there's no simple answer out of it. The person is locked, into their own projection. And in such a crisis that if he did not have the strength, some very strong ideas would come into your mind, like jump under a train or something, because you're left without any moves, only personally. And in the meantime of talking, something here, just listening, because I couldn't find he was in his room, in his house, but I couldn't find a door to enter his house. I was just listening through the wall, listening, and then at some point, a little hole there, then I came through. Let's take a look at this thing. And just in that way, he came to discover himself in his universal consciousness, which he was not aware of before, but came into total seeing. I'm saying this because you don't have to have tradition of been practicing and satsang and so on. And the proof of it that anybody, even an atheist, if somehow guided rightly and they're open, come to the same understanding of their universal consciousness. He could not believe it. He was holding his head. Wow. Where is all this suffering? Whoa! Like it only exists on such a small plane. Then I told him also that the storm would come. You don't come to this understanding, and you don't get that, and your boat is not shaken. It will come from the mind. The power that keeps you in this body. You can say it's God's power keep you in this body too, but there's a sub-power that is holding you captive in the state of personhood in this body, and he's going to come. And you may look and think, why is this thing come to make me fail? But you can change your view and say, it's come here because this is a final test. Maybe he's going to shake the boat to see if you're going to jump over, or you will stay at the helm and hold into what you see. I know it will come. Especially, he's a kind of newborn. So I want to see if you will be stillborn or you will be reborn. When you're reborn, you can grow very quick in spiritual consciousness. Or you can really get stifled, you see, by that. And I know enough people who came to seeing and it was effectively stolen from them. But it's inside their own spiritual history of their own spiritual destiny, you can say, to experience like that. And it's like that. But my point is anybody can, in spite of so many years, maybe lifetimes of conditioning, if you're rightly guided, you can come back to universal consciousness. But there must be within you some strong urge to, like once you are free to stay free, in a way to kind of stay free. Something has to work for it a bit, because the force that keeps us feeling bound is not just going to say bye, see you. No, it's going to stay there, and a few go through that. That's why for most people, it's such a gradual, slowly getting a reacquired taste for your own being. Some few, one time, bang, it's finished, you see.